We don't fall in love with the other person. We fall in love with the idealized version of ourselves through their lens. It's kind of like an unconscious deal that the two of us make in codependency, is that I'm going to be the mother that you didn't have, and you're going to do the same for me. In the initial phases of that codependency or trauma bonding, it's just so addictive because you get that high, you feel that sense of belonging. You're like, finally, I've met somebody that's going to help quell that little insecure little boy inside that feels like he's not lovable. And they're doing the same thing on the other side. And eventually, after that first 6 months to a year, where that initial honeymoon phase is over, something triggers you, and now you've gone into some sort of a disillusionment where they aren't that fantasy that you thought that they were going to be.
Yeah.
Essentially, in codependency, we don't fall in love with the other person. We fall in love with the idealized version of ourselves through their lens. And then when it gets taken away, we are so disillusioned because the fantasy didn't turn out to be real. So there's a crisis of disillusionment that must happen for a relationship to transcend that immature phase into the mature.
You ever been in a relationship and you know you're sabotaging it, but you just can't stop? You can't overthink that text, or you pull away when it's getting too close, or you're picking fights, or you want to cling tighter when they just want to create space. And maybe you've told yourself, why am I like this? At first it was magic, that honeymoon phase, the chemistry, the connection. And then boom, anxiety comes in, the power struggles, the shutdowns, the reactivity you didn't even know you had in you. You feel crazy. That's your nervous system protecting you from old wounds. And this is one of my favorite topics to talk about today. I'm joined by Dr. Nima Rahmany. He's a nervous system and attachment specialist known for his work in shadow integration and emotional healing. And for more than 2 decades, he studied the nervous system and what it teaches us about healing the parts of us that keep sabotaging our relationships. In this episode, we break down what really ends that honeymoon phase, why power struggles are predictable, how to set boundaries without losing connection, and the actual formula for a secure, healthy relationship, whether you're single, dating, married, or healing from heartbreak. This one will really land and maybe expose something deep inside of you. All right, everyone. I am very excited to talk to Dr. Nima. Dr. Nima is a nervous system attachment specialist and a somatic psychology expert. He's a former chiropractor.
Yeah.
I want to welcome you to the show, man, because I love the work that you do. I love the work that you do. You're about relationships, healing, attachments, which is really hot. Everyone's talking about it.
Yeah.
But I don't think anyone is on social media is really getting to the core of what we're going to talk about. And yours is through the lens of real nervous system healing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when people are coming to chiropractors, naturopaths, doctors with, health issues, they don't first think about, when did they start and what kind of conflict was I going through at the time that kind of emerged this dysfunction, this dysregulation, this dis-ease.
When it started.
And so most of the time I was noticing with patients, people coming in with long-term chronic issues. And when you ask them when did it begin, it was coincided with some sort of a relational attachment rupture, a divorce, betrayal.
Yeah.
Grief of a loss,
Yeah.
and we don't know. Our system doesn't know what to do about it, and it starts a chain of events that leads to disease. And so, I was always curious: what happens if we just go upstream and then learn how to heal relational conflict? What would happen? And my life changed. Client's life changed, so that's why I like focusing on the upstream root cause issue.
Where else are we going to go?
I'm lazy. I'm lazy. Let's just go to the to the root.
Let's go to the root.
Go upstream.
All right. I got some quick questions for
Sure.
you. I got some rapid fire ones. Are you ready to be in the hot seat?
I'm
Doc?
ready.
Okay.
Born ready.
A lot of people talk about their traumas and their issues. It's an intellectual thing. Why in those cases does the nervous system not heal?
Everybody talks about their problems from the lens of the story. They did this to me. My husband should be more aligned. He should value me more. They should respect me more. They did this. We stay in the level of the story, and the story is a way for us to regulate the emotional pain. Let's call it the energy, the emotional energy from those woundings. And they're held in our body, and they're very uncomfortable, and they are dysregulating. This is where our dysregulation comes from. Those woundings, those ruptures in attachment from childhood, they live in the body. And because they're so painful, we escape up into our heads to protect ourselves from that pain. And then we stay in the level of the story. And by telling the story, they did this to me, I was betrayed, my father abandoned me. And we stay in that level and we get those parts validated at a therapist. It feels good for the moment because now you're validating me, you're reflecting me. I get this hit of dopamine, but I haven't gone beneath the surface to move that charge, that trauma, that life force energy that is stored in the cells in our body. We don't traditionally do anything to move that energy through the body so that we can release it. So it stays stuck, and we have this low-grade alarm in the system that stays in the background, and no amount of homeopathic remedy or outside-in type of approach is going to address that until we go back there.
We have to go back there.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Rapid fire number 2. Why do high-performing people usually struggle in relationships?
Because what gets you very successful in business and performance, which is your ability to compartmentalize emotions, to push through, to kind of power through and force an outcome and use logic to work your way through, brilliant when it comes to work. Putting aside your emotions and playing a role, playing a character, right? In other words, playing this role and playing this character in the corporate world with clients on stages. My clients are stages. In intimate relationships, you can't hide from those shadows. They come out. So what makes us successful in business actually hurts us. It actually is destructive to intimacy, which requires vulnerability. So you become successful by hiding vulnerability. But in relational dynamics, intimacy requires it. So now we have a catch-22.
I love the way you said that because it's so clear and it's so real. And there's people viewing and listening who go, yeah, my husband or my wife is a high performer and all of this goes on in our relationship.
Well, it's like on stage, in public, you can put on a character, but then what happens off stage, you can't hide from your wife. I can't hide from my wife, my shadows. She gets to see them. And the split between my public persona and my private persona, that the more the gap is between those two, I call it the success anxiety paradox, the more incongruence we have, the more fractured we are from ourselves, and it is in our health and our personal relationships that will suffer the most.
And I love, because I'm sure you've heard that a lot in partnership, he or she doesn't go into the vulnerability.
Yeah.
I got another one. Another rapid fire. Boom. Is people pleasing a trauma response or a personality trait?
It's a trauma response that we develop into from childhood that becomes a personality trait. And it's extremely difficult to undo because it's reflexive. You don't even know you're doing it. It's cultural. I mean, every Persian, I'm Persian, every Persian is part of our culture to this word called tarof. Tarof means kind of like conditioned cultural self-abandonment. I'm thirsty, you offer me this water, and I say no because I want to be polite, because cultural decencies. But over time, it just becomes who I am. So it becomes a personality trait. So it is a trauma response.
What's the reason that in relationships or around the people we love the most, we're so quick to also abandon ourselves so fast?
We develop into this character. These are great questions, by the way. I love your questions and I love the engagement around them. If you as a child received the message that your authentic self, who you are, your expression of your desires, your preferences, your values, your beliefs was not acceptable to the people that raised you, and that by expressing them, it would jeopardize that connection, then you develop into a person that lives in a framework that feels that love equals self-abandonment. That I can't have me and have you at the same time. And so it becomes an identity that love means that I must lose myself to be connected with you. I cannot be me and experience love. If my nervous system hasn't experienced that, then when I get older and I start going into a relationship, I'm going to go back to that framework that, oh, I really like this person. I'm going to obsess and orient towards what they're saying or thinking and doing and what music they like. And I'm just going to, what music do you like? Well, whatever you like. So it's love means self-abandonment. And ultimately, that's manipulation. And it will be a devastating outcome of you lose yourself to be with that other person.
I know that feeling sometimes. All right. Last hot seat question. If someone doesn't repair their nervous system before having children, will it pass on inevitably to the children?
I believe that it will indirectly, because even, I have a 5-year-old and I knew this. So I knew that it was the best way that I can serve him was to create as safe of a relationship with his mother as possible, because I knew that even in breastfeeding, even when she's carrying him in development in utero, he's experiencing, her nervous system is downloading onto his. And so our nervous systems are contagious. So if you're around a mother who's dysregulated, who's got this background alarm, who's highly reactive, then it's like the fishbowl of dirty water that you're born into. You don't know it's dirty water. You just say it's water. And until, my clients, they leave that environment and then they spend some time in purified water, they don't even realize, wow, it's just so unfamiliar to be in safety. So I believe, absolutely, it's going to pass down.
Yeah. What a beautiful analogy, because kids don't really realize that they're in that.
No, you don't know that it's
normal.
It's just, you don't know that if there's constantly, like, you're in a war zone, or it's just there's this dysregulation and there's lack of safety, or the home is like a battlefield because of mom and dad. You've normalized that that's what it is. And until you leave and then you go to another place, you don't know that that was abnormal. Like, I moved from Vancouver to Victoria. And as soon as you take the ferry from Vancouver and you land in Victoria, your nervous system goes, oh, and you don't even realize that you're on edge until you leave.
That's how I feel when I leave LA every single time, man.
Exactly.
That's what you need. If you live in LA, you need vacations. And I got one coming up next week, so
Good.
I'll be heading out.
Good.
Awesome. Thank you for those answers. They're just so concise and wise. And viewers and listeners, that's just an appetizer. Really we're getting the momentum going, so you can just see and feel really these wisdom that's coming from you. But for people who don't know your work, tell us about what you do. Describe what you do, and why is it so important right now in medicine?
As a healthcare provider, for 20 years, I was a chiropractor. Patients coming in with stress-related issues, really, they're coming in with aches and pains, but as you get to know them, you probably get it. There's always a story around their symptoms, whether it's a sports injury, an accident is one thing, but there's chronic issues that are developing. When did this happen? 3 years ago. What happened 3 years ago? Going through a divorce. I lost my mother. So that I saw these patterns of relational ruptures happening, and then they develop chronic issues on the other side of it. So interestingly enough, I went through my own divorce, 2013, got married in 2010, divorced in 2012, 2013, and I went through a series of 9 failed relationships after that, leading to this one that was just an epic disaster zone. I didn't know what a trauma bond was. I didn't know what codependency was, but it was a highly sexually charged relationship. She helped me take my methodology, and then she reached out to me. I started doing my methodology on her that I was developing to help people shift their perceptions of stress, and we started a relationship after that. Long story short, it was a highly toxic codependent relationship that over time started to become abusive. And on March 11th, 2018, I did something that I'm really embarrassed about during the middle of a 5-hour argument where I was just trying to get some peace. Things escalated, and I slapped her. And that was a wake-up call for me. I'm going, all right, so how did I get here in this relationship? How did I react in such a way? These hands are used to heal people. How is it that I can go from that to actually becoming physical with my partner? And I really wanted to make sure that, how do I make sure that this never happens again? I want to be able to trust myself that no matter how many times I'm with somebody who's pushing my buttons, that I don't get to that level where I dissociate and then react the way that I did. And so as I did that, I studied polyvagal theory, shadow work, nervous system regulation, attachment theory. I just went deep into this. I stopped working as a chiropractor, as anything, for 6 months, and I just said, I got to figure this out. And there, the concept of becoming trigger-proof was born. And I thought, if I could do that, can I have can I have what I've never had before, a relationship that I was all in with, that feels secure? And then I met my sweetheart, Diana, and we had a beautiful son born September 21st, 2020. He turned 5 just a few months ago in the recording of this. And now I teach other cycle breakers this concept of becoming trigger-proof, how to expand that space between stimulus and response so that what you're reacting to, you can take responsibility for and thereby transform your relationship from insecure dynamics to secure dynamics. And then, of course, entrepreneurs and professionals, how to be able to have success in the workplace and intimacy at home, so that, as you talked about, you don't have to compromise one for the other. So I'm living what I'm teaching. So the work actually lives in my bones of what I'm teaching, which is secure, polarized relationships, rupture and repair, and polyvagal, what I call polyvagal parenting, raising a child who knows himself, who loves himself, who expresses his authentic self and doesn't have to put on a what do I call it? Doesn't have to put on a character in order to be loved.
Yeah.
Can feel lovable for who he is, his authentic self.
That's the most important parenting out there that we all needed growing up.
It's actually a health care consideration. It's like everybody who's in the medical system, they're what I truly believe is that this is why I left chiropractic, is because they're looking for love from the parents that they didn't have.
Yeah.
So they project it onto doctors and practitioners. It's like we're transferring. It's like, I didn't receive that, but if I can get that for that real parenting that I didn't get from.
Yeah, it's and thank you for sharing that vulnerable story, that part of your life, because oftentimes in things that we do that we're ashamed of,
Mhm.
and I have many, I have a whole list of them. There's things that arise from that if we listen to that moment. You know,
If we face it,
if we face it and you were able to see what was arising and say, whoa,
how did that happen?
that is out of the,
How did I get there?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then moving that, shifting into bringing to life something new.
Yeah.
You talk about parenting and, you know, we in the medical field, I feel like we all have a patient that has latched onto us. And it's crazy that you say this. I was just the other day out of nowhere, one of my first patients I've ever worked with. I remembered her and it was nonstop. And I didn't have enough
did she have a list?
papers.
Did she
Every
come in with
doctor. Yeah.
they usually come in,
Multiple diagnosis.
they come in with their folder of medical stuff. And I'm just, as soon as that comes in, you know that they're projecting, you know, I'm looking for a parent through the medical system.
Something was so unwell. And I thought to myself, if I had the tools as a practitioner now, maybe things might have been different.
Mm-hmm.
But now I can see with that lens, and I haven't visited this person for so long, maybe 8 years, 9 years.
Yeah.
And then it was beautiful to see. So you mentioning that, it's a little full circle. When I read the research about how potent urolithin A is for our brain health and our muscle health, it was something I was really interested in. And at the time, there was no products that were out there. And so I knew that it was coming from pomegranates, so I would eat a lot of pomegranates. And I would sometimes drink pomegranate juice, knowing it was good for my prostate too. But it wasn't until I went to Expo West in LA, I met the folks at Timeline, and they were telling me that they were creating MitoPure. And MitoPure was urolithin A, in initially the form of a powder. But now they came out with these delicious gummies that I eat every single day. It's my first thing that I eat every morning. I have 2. I look forward to it after my walks. And here's the thing. If you're over the age of 30, I really, really want you to listen to this because your mitochondria starts to just get a little sluggish and degrade after the age of 30. Old sluggish mitochondria goes hand in hand with aging. And MitoPure gummies are longevity gummies that are designed to support cellular energy so you feel stronger and more vibrant as you age. They're powered by MitoPure, and it is the only clinically proven form of urolithin A that has been shown in human studies to support your mitochondrial function. And I mentioned before, mitochondria equals aging. Healthy mitochondria, y'all are aging a lot slower than the population. And it's not a theory, I promise you that. It is backed by 15 years of research in the mitochondrial health space. And this is across multiple human trials. And what I love is that their formula is clean, gluten-free, non-GMO, sugar-free. It's Clean Label Project certified. It is a top quality product, not only for your brain, not only for your mitochondria, but for your muscles. Yeah, I mean it. It actually supports in the research muscle strength and muscle function. So support your cells, support your mitochondria, give them some love, especially when it comes to aging, and visit timeline.com/DRG and save up to 39% off of your MitoPure gummies. That is timeline.com/DRG.
Well, the thing is that if your home life was so chaotic that the only time that you ever received love was when you were sick or you got into an accident, guess what your unconscious is going to do when you're in a low place? You're going to get sick and you're going to get into accidents. So patients are coming to me again and again, and I'm working on them, and I'm just like, this is not it.
Yeah.
And every practitioner that I know who's at some point has been doing this for more than 10 years, more than 20 years, knows exactly what I'm talking about. And I had to get out of the system and then tell my story and then share really what the path is and say, I only want to work with people who are ready to take ownership, not to become saved or rescued by somebody outside of them, how to learn how to become their own medicine. And
That's the shift. That's a shift.
That is.
It is I'm ready to step into that because otherwise,
not everyone is.
It's going to be external nonstop.
And those are the ones that are just going from one doctor to another. Maybe someone out there is going to save me.
Yeah. All right. Into relational stuff. There is, you mentioned codependency in your experience. A lot of people are codependent. I just saw my friend upstairs. He just got out of a codependent relationship. People who are in codependent relationships, they may follow psychology pages and watch some shows about therapy. But what are they really missing in codependency? What
Yeah.
are they not seeing? What is their pattern? What's the energetic expression? What's in the system? What is the one thing that is like, you're not really looking at this?
Yeah. Great question. Codependency is when the me gets engulfed by the we. Is when I live in a framework that, and it feels, by the way, it feels great at first. This is the problem. Codependency in the early stages that, we can all look back in a time where we literally lose ourselves into love, and it is very addicting. It's this sense of belonging. It's the child inside of us that lost connection, didn't feel seen, can now surrender and just lose themselves and feel loved, and it's amazing. And it's almost like there's no boundary between me and we. The me is gone. And so this is where we have things like enmeshment, where emotional fusion happens. Whatever you're feeling comes into me. So there is no me, there's just we. What do we want, right? So what are they missing? They're missing a strong sense of self, that intimacy, in order to be sustainable and healthy, requires a me, kind of like a interdependency, that there's a me and a we, that there's a duality of a me and a we, which then serves something greater than ourselves. And so what they're missing is a purpose for their relationship that's greater than themselves.
Oh, I like that.
That's what's really missing. If I can go to a really high level of your question,
Yeah.
what's missing is a purpose for the relationship that's greater than themselves. So in other words, I have a mission. All right? There's my relationship to divinity first, then relationship to self, and then the other. Right? And so codependency is when the other or the relationship becomes your divinity. And so you lose yourself, and there's all sorts of feedback that the system will give you through depression, through anxious attachment, through the anxious avoidant dance, that push-pull, where the two are struggling between this need for individuality and togetherness. And we haven't really figured it out unless you had a great model growing up, which who really did, not me. You're going to struggle with it. Even if you're really smart, even if you're a doctor, you're going to still struggle with it, because an education isn't going to solve, even a psych degree isn't going to solve it.
No.
It's facing your own shadows. That's why I don't take advice from people who aren't, if I'm hiring mentors or guides, or I'm looking, even in business, I want to see how their wife looks at them.
Yeah.
That tells me more about the person, how they're embodied, than who you're being. Because I used to put on a great performance too when I was wearing the mask, and so it's another animal to be able to break free from that codependency trap and then really create authentic, secure love. I never understood what that was.
Yeah. So it's not a logical thing. You're saying that it is something, an experience that's modeled in childhood that most of us don't necessarily get. And so we
don't even know.
We don't even know. So we find our first love and, it feels so good. I'm alive again. I'm surrendering. I finally feel the nurturing that I always wanted. And it's easy to fall into that.
Correct.
So
I feel seen.
I feel seen.
The child in me that didn't feel seen now feels that belonging that I've been searching for. Right? And so it's kind of like an unconscious deal that the two of us make in codependency, is that I'm going to be the mother that you didn't have, and you're going to do the same for me. Right? And so at first, in the initial phases of that codependency or trauma bonding, it's just so addictive.
Yeah.
Because you get that high, you feel that sense of belonging. You're like, finally, I've met somebody that's going to help quell that little insecure little boy inside that feels like he's not lovable, loved, good enough. And so, and they're doing the same thing on the other side. And eventually, after that first 6 months to a year, where that initial honeymoon phase is over, something triggers you, whether there's life events happen, health issues come up, a parent dies, financial whatever, something comes up that triggers, and now you've gone into the next, some sort of a disillusionment where they aren't that fantasy. They aren't that fantasy that you thought that they were going to be.
Yeah.
Right? So you can keep up with that. Essentially, we don't fall in love with the other. In codependency, we don't fall in love with the other person. We fall in love with the idealized version of ourselves through their lens. And then when it gets taken away for some reason, we are so disillusioned because the fantasy didn't turn out to be real. And now the disappointment, so there's a crisis of disillusionment that must happen for a relationship to transcend that immature phase into the mature.
How many times I've been in a relationship, a codependent relationship, and that happened, right? The honeymoon would be over. And then I'd be like, well, you changed. Something about you changed.
You're
and I can't
not
put my
what
finger.
I thought you were.
Yeah, you're not what I thought you were.
You're not what I expected you to be. That's usually the narrative.
Yeah, exactly. The ideal, what you were, I don't know what changed.
Yeah.
You're just so different. This isn't working.
Yeah, devaluing and then discarding.
And discarding, right?
Yeah.
And it's that, at least for me, in the past, that was my pattern. Right around 6 months, something would
Bingo.
happen. And then I'd lose interest.
Yeah.
And then I just
Yeah.
not be
She's
in a
not
relationship
giving me
anymore.
the attention that I wanted.
Yeah.
She's not pedestalizing me like I expected. She has other interests.
Yeah, like another life.
Yeah,
right?
how dare you have your own values?
Like hobbies and values.
It should be all about me.
It is really, really, and there's compassion for me because I've been there. I know what it feels like to feel so good to finally, like, I love the way you said it, surrender, right? Being seen, and you can just surrender, and you're like, hey, there's a little kid in me who's finally getting the love that
It's
he
like
needed.
returning into the womb where you didn't have any, you were just, that's what it is,
Full surrender. Why does oftentimes people in relationship, it's so easy for us to say we're going to have boundaries. I am going to start speaking up and I'm going to put my opinion and I'm going to say no. And then when it comes down to it, people keep abandoning their boundaries over and over and over. It's so hard to hold boundaries in relationship.
Yeah.
Why?
Great question. First and foremost, if I were to tell you, hey, no, that's not acceptable, that's not a real boundary. It's a warning, but a boundary isn't really spoken. It's who you are. So if I say, when people violate their boundaries, it wasn't really a boundary. Okay? So let me give you an example. If let's say this interview, it says see at 12:30, and let's say I come strolling in here at 1:30, an hour late, and I come in and you say, hey, I say to you text me before you through your email communication, you tell me, make sure you're here by 12:30 because this is when we begin. And I message you and we're clear. And then you tell me, by the way, if you're not here by 12:35, we're going to have to cancel. So I message you, and I tell you, hey, traffic was crazy on the 405, which it was.
It is always crazy.
And you tell me, that's okay, no problem. And I stroll in at 1:30. And you say, okay, no problem, let's go through with it anyway. That wasn't a real boundary. A boundary is when you actually enforce it, right? And if you are in a situation where having me on your show is more important to you than, upsetting the next interview that you had. Let's say you have a string of them. What in that moment, what we're going to do is we're going to evaluate, is this person, having them in my life, is it valuable enough for me to bend my boundaries for? Right? So it's not an all or none. Let me give you an example. This is the first time we've met, and I don't have that huge of a following at this stage of my career. I just left chiropractic. You might say, if I strolled in at 1:30, you might say, Nima, sorry, we're going to have to either reschedule or cancel, or that doesn't work for me because you disrespected my boundaries. So it's a no for me. But what if I was like Barack Obama or Michael Jordan and I was an hour late? I'm sure you wouldn't mind.
Right.
You would bend that boundary. So it's a complicated question.
It is, yeah.
And it all depends. We, at this moment in time, we make an evaluation, evaluate, depending on our values. Is my no going to hurt my highest values? Or is my no going to uphold my highest values? So it's a case-by-case basis, right? So your question has the intent of saying, why do we keep violating our boundaries? And it's because in that moment in time, we perceive that maintaining that connection is more important to us than potentially losing them. And sometimes that's appropriate to violate a boundary.
Yeah. I love the nuance in that.
It's so nuanced.
Because it's not just a boom, boom, boom.
It's not black and white.
Yeah.
Because you might tell me, screw you, Nima, you can't be an hour late for this interview. But if I was Michael Jordan, or if I was
Tupac Shakur.
If I was Tupac Shakur coming from the dead, you'd be like, bro, tell me when you're ready. I'll wait for you.
Yeah, I'll wait for you all day.
Right? So why did you violate your boundary? Well, because in that moment there's a values question that your system is making.
Evaluate.
You're evaluating in that moment. So what it tells me, the goal here, I think what we're getting at is the goal here is to develop a standard of what you will allow and what you won't allow, and to define it. And whenever it gets crossed, it gets violated, to check in and inquire. Because secure relationships are all about boundary violations that are repaired. So if you and I started a friendship today, which I wouldn't be opposed to, I think you're awesome. As we get to know one another, our relationship can only get stronger through violations of boundaries that are repaired. I might hang out with you for a few weeks, and then I'll drop an F-bomb here and there, which if you listen to Tupac, I'm sure you don't mind. But let's say you had an issue with that, and you say, hey, Nima, it makes me uncomfortable when you use that language around me. In that moment, you've given me feedback that I have violated a boundary, not purposefully, but you're giving me feedback. And then I think to myself, Dr. G's a really great guy. Anybody else, I'd be like, take a hike. Don't tell me what to do. But having you in my life is very valuable. So I want to respect what you say and be like, all right, when I'm around Dr. G, I'm just going to pay attention and not use that language. Why? Because it's important for me to have this connection.
The communication piece right there is so important then. In relationships,
it's nuanced.
We have to be able to speak then.
Correct.
Communicate what's happening, right?
Yeah. You got to tell me when I violated your boundary.
But are people in relationships, do we not even know when our boundary is violated? Or do we know we suck it in and we don't say anything?
Well, most of us haven't inquired about it or done the work to really figure that out. So how do we know is the body tells you. When there's a constriction happening, the animal body will let you know. I don't know, like when you start a job, when you start a relationship, you don't know what the boundaries are, right? So if I'm late constantly in this friendship when we're meeting up, eventually if it starts to erode at you. If I'm a few minutes late doesn't bother you, I'm like, okay, cool. And I come see you and you don't give me any indication that my lateness bothered you. I go, okay, cool. This is where his boundary is.
Yeah.
But then if I'm like 3 minutes late and you go, hey, buddy, you were 3 minutes late. And I'm like, whoa, okay. Now I know around Dr. G, time is a thing for him.
Yeah.
So I can make that evaluation and go, all right, I want this guy in my life. I'm going to make sure to respect that. But somebody like Eminem, for example, I went to his concert and the dude was an hour late.
Oh.
And we all just waited because
It's Eminem.
we just paid all that money to go see Eminem, right?
Yeah.
Am I just going to leave because I feel that, does he care? The question is, does he care?
Yeah.
Probably not, right? So it's a nuanced topic.
It's a nuanced topic. So in relationships, then, it's always about, we have to have that connection to our body to know, okay, this was something that is important to me that was crossed. And then the second part is we have to be able to be courageous enough to express it in a loving way. Say, hey,
loving way,
friend, or hey, partner, I love you.
This makes me really uncomfortable when so-and-so happens. When you, or on a date, can I share, it really makes me uncomfortable that we're going this fast.
Yeah.
And this is the boundary, by the way, especially with masculine and feminine dynamics. The way that a woman, especially important for women, because women are afraid. If you were raised in an environment where a boundary felt like rejection to somebody else, then a woman will sweep her kind of like feelings and her boundaries under the rug to maintain that connection. How many times has a woman said yes to sex even when her body was a no? That's sexual fawning because she wanted to be liked or maintain that, and it's not her fault. I'm not saying it at all. It's just that if she wants to have a secure relationship, she's going to have to stop violating her own boundaries and speak up and say, listen, it makes me uncomfortable that we're progressing a little bit too fast. I need a little bit more time. Now, in that moment, when she speaks her truth, and the boundary has nothing to do with the other person. When you speak your boundary, you're talking about what you're comfortable with. And in that moment, if the guy turns around and goes, what are you talking about? I bought you steak dinner, kind of like entitled. If she says that and he responds that way, that's the red flag. Oh, this guy's not respectful to my boundaries. That's when she's responsible for hopefully leaving that situation. Of course, this is how you know that the person is safe. Early on, you share what you're comfortable with, what makes you uncomfortable and comfortable, what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and let the other person demonstrate if this is a safe person to be around.
If someone isn't demonstrating that they can respect someone's boundaries and they're quote unquote unsafe, is that because it was modeled at home that no boundaries were respected between their parents or maybe between them and their parents?
Yeah. So are you asking why people don't
cross those boundaries? Yeah.
Why do they?
Yeah.
Yeah. The question you want to ask is, when you said no, when you said no, how was that met by your parents? Right? Don't do that. I don't want that. If your boundaries were crossed over by your parent, that's why my 5-year-old, when he says no, Dad, don't pick me up, I'm like, hey, thanks for letting me know. Right? We're teaching him. And so he'll come in and, grab my butt, and he's just obsessed with penises. So he's coming after, let me touch your penis, or I'm like, hey, bud, I'm teaching him. We don't touch other people's penises. Nobody touches that. We're learning, and we're taught what's okay and what's not okay, and we're modeled that with our parents. Then the whole concept of other people's boundaries becomes sacred. But if they're kind of stepped over with yours, you just learn that that's just what we do. If somebody's no makes you uncomfortable, you push harder.
Yeah.
Because that was what's modeled to you. You're not going to be a really safe person to be around.
Yeah. People in relationships who are viewing and listening right now, they say, we trigger each other so much, but they stay with each other for years.
Mm-hmm.
But they trigger and they fight and they trigger again. Is that just a form of codependency?
If they are constantly triggering each other and fighting, what that tells me that they're in the second phase of the relationship, which is once you go from the honeymoon phase, as you described in your relationship, then you go into the next phase, which is the power struggle phase. And it's what all relationships go through, but most will get stuck there in the push and the pull and the push and the pull. They trigger one another. This person gets activated and triggered and they pull away, which then triggers this person's anxious attachment and pushes harder, which causes them to pull away, and it just keeps going back. And then finally they're like, I'm out of here. And they're like, wait. And this person's fear of abandonment gets activated. I'm coming back. Okay, fine, let's do this. And then trigger again, same pattern.
Wow. Yeah.
So back and forth. Most people who haven't really explored attachment work will spend decades in the power struggle phase until they break up. And some of my clients, they've been in it for like 30 years, right? Why do they stay in that? Well, that's what their parents did. Or they have some sort of a religion that says that you're not supposed to leave, right? So people will stay in that because it's familiar. Familiarity equals safety. In other words, it feels more unsafe to leave than it does to stick around because they know that this is what's familiar, until the safety of staying is jeopardized. It's more unsafe to stay. So they keep going until it escalates into something maybe abusive.
Yeah.
That's what finally wakes the person up. There's usually a wake-up call that drives us into this type of work.
Yeah, it has to, right? Something has to break, like in any system, it's bubbling up.
Yeah.
Is there another phase then that people can move out of this? And what is that
Yes.
phase called?
It's called mature love.
Mature love.
Where you take full responsibility without blame for healing your part of this unconscious dynamic. Now, it's ideal if both parties take on that, but within my clients, that doesn't happen all the time, right? So usually the pattern is she threatens to leave finally. She's been kind of doing the emotional labor, and he's just like, fine, I'll do therapy or whatever, and then it gets better for a while because he didn't go deep enough. He just kind of like postured that he was just gonna, just to shut her up type of thing. And finally, where she goes deep enough, does the work, and turns to him and says, that's it, I can't stay anymore. This is when he wakes up and is like, oh my God, am I gonna actually lose her? And he'll often say things like, we had the perfect relationship. I didn't see there's any problem. And so that just shows you how disconnected emotionally one of them is, not attuned to the other person's emotions. So it's usually some sort of a wake-up call that causes us to say, I can't keep doing this. And that's for the one person, the one who wants to break the cycle, to heal what this is about. Nothing is about what it's about. And when they do the work, they realize that they're repeating unfinished business from childhood using their partner. Partner's doing the same thing, but it's up to that one person to go deep and then resolve that. And then one of two things will happen if they do it. The first thing is they realize that they are projecting their past onto them, and they stop doing that. And the energy between them shifts, and there's a deeper love and connection that happens just from the one person doing the work.
Powerful.
Option number two, they do that work. They heal that energetic dance. They divorce mom and dad. Finally, before they divorce the other person, they divorce mom or dad. And after they've done that work, they realize, I see how I was the perfect person in this relational dynamic. I see how my part in it, and I can see that they're wounding as well. And I love them, and I see that it's time for us to move on. And so one couple that I worked with, it wasn't a couple, I was working with her. After about 6 months, he started noticing a difference, and she was ready to leave. And finally he was like, oh my God, I don't want to lose her. He jumps in and starts rewiring his childhood patterns and seeing the unresolved shame, and starts noticing. And then after about 6 months, he was like, you know what? I realized it's time for us to move on.
Wow.
And so both of them did a FaceTime with their 26-year-old daughter and made the announcement, say, hey, sweetheart, your mom and I have decided that we're parting ways, and we're doing it with love.
Yeah.
And she was like, wow, I'm so proud of you guys. You guys have done the work. And they're great allies and friends, but they both, after going through the process of divorcing mom and dad and divorcing from mom and dad internally, realizing why they got together, realizing the source of root of their kind of toxic dance and codependency, and then they transform their relationship to allies and friends, and they have moved on and started dating other people.
Incredible.
Without a war.
Without a war, because
Without
it doesn't
a
have to be war.
war.
It doesn't have to be war.
Without the legal battle. It just, they were like, hey, let's do this with love, with open hearts.
Incredible that the man did that. He jumped in and rewired and saw.
But he didn't until he thought she was going to leave.
Yeah, for sure. But doesn't that happen? Isn't that how we are sometimes, men? We got to get hit with a brick, and then we go, oh, okay, let me get it going.
I think to adapt to our childhoods being raised by emotionally unattuned fathers or mothers that were chaotic in their own way with their codependent relationships, we learn to kind of stuff away our emotions. We learn to intellectualize and then become successful so that we can have the wife that appreciates us the way that we deserve.
Yeah.
Kind of like an entitled. My first marriage was very entitled. It was like, look, I'm providing you this. You should just, you know. And I was just confused. Why are you unhappy? I would judge her emotions and say, look at what I'm providing you. You should be really thrilled by me. You shouldn't be giving me any negative critical feedback. How dare you criticize me when I'm so amazing? So for some reason, she didn't appreciate that. I have no idea why. So I think as men, because we're so out of touch with our emotional body, we're confused about them, and we interpret a woman's sadness as a failure on our part.
Yeah.
Instead of learning how to separate our emotions from theirs and just hold that space and just be a witness, a safe witness to them, we don't learn how to be safe witnesses to women's emotions. We actually feel threatened by them. And this takes us back to a childhood state where mom is sad and we feel like we have to fix her. And so it becomes all about happy wife, happy life, making her happy. And a woman, based on her emotions and, you know, human beings, their blood glucose levels, we're at various stages of mood. Yeah. And so if they're not in that great mood, we feel attacked. We feel victimized by their emotions. So then we, instead of being able to be a safe witness, we become the opposite of safety emotionally for women. It comes down to this fear of being a failure. Yeah. So then her sad emotions we interpret as our failure, and then we go, "What's wrong with you?" Instead, which for some reason doesn't make them feel better. Yeah. And so that keeps going for decades sometimes, and then shit breaks down and falls apart.
Inevitably.
It's not sustainable.
One thing that my partner and I really value is that anytime there's a rupture in the relationship, we can repair it. And God bless her. She's the communicative and more mature one, and she's 15 years younger. And it's just incredible every single time. I've done my work too. I'm pretty damn good here. We're meeting in a great place. But what I notice is every time there's a repair, there's a new level to the relationship.
Exactly.
Without fail.
That's the hidden blessing. When you master the rupture repair process, conflict becomes a portal to deeper intimacy. It's like when you go to the gym and you're building muscle, what you're doing is you're creating little ruptures within the muscle fiber. And then it repairs, but stronger. It hypertrophies. So the muscle becomes stronger through the repair of the rupture. So my marriage, we've been married now almost 6 years. Our relationship is stronger because of the ruptures that we've repaired, rather than how I used to have relationships that started out super hot and then they would fizzle. This has actually become greater and deeper in intimacy as we go along. And I didn't even know that was possible until my mid-40s. So now I'm 50. How old are you?
41.
41. Okay, cool. So yeah, I didn't even know that was possible until I started to learn how to do that.
Yeah. And it's just a different, there's relationships and then there's like proper, like you said, mature love relationships. And we all deserve to feel secure to that level. And I think for us, for men, when there's a fracture, it's exactly what you said. It's like, well, why are you bad? What did I do? You know what I mean?
And we get defensive.
And it's like, everything's fine. I don't get it, And
which then causes her to feel invalidated.
Of course, yeah.
Right? Which is, she doesn't want it fixed. She just wants to be understood.
Yeah.
Right? But we don't understand. If I don't understand the little boy that feels like he's a failure, there's no way I can understand her when she's in pain, which she's been activated from her her wounding, that from a father that didn't really understand her either.
Yeah. You're a wise cat, man. A real wise cat.
I've earned these gray hairs, bro.
Yeah, I love that, man. You have a method.
Yeah.
Tell us about the trigger-proof method.
It's a cognitive and a somatic methodology that takes every trigger and helps you understand the core wound, and through a somatic process, rewire that conditioned self-abandonment into deeper self-love. And then it's called, it's integrating, bringing understanding to the part of you that you've abandoned during that trigger, during that conflict. And once you take care of that part first, which doesn't involve the other person, usually we get into conflict when people trigger us. We don't want to feel that way. We turn to that other person and say, hey, I need you to stop doing this, what the hidden message is, so that I don't feel this. Which the trigger-proof methodology is really about bringing integration to the wounded parts of me that you just triggered before I even ask you to do anything. So that I can go from child consciousness to my prefrontal cortex and now talk to you like an adult and communicate from my adult self. Because if I'm communicating to you from my reactive child self, that's going to activate your wounding. And now we have two children that can't connect, instead of an adult talking and saying, hey, listen, back there, or yesterday, when you said this, when you said those words to me, what you didn't realize was I was going through this. I wasn't ready for that. And you can now communicate and repair and now understand. It's really about understanding each other's pain. Understanding the pain that I just went through and find the root of it. And without needing another person, to understand, to empathize, and bring compassion, and which is another word for integrate somatically the trigger that comes up. So it basically, it's weird. I have this little 4-week little mini courses that I put on for people who are curious about it. And this realtor that I finished, she just finished, I got on a call with her. I said, what was it like? She goes, I feel like I've emotionally matured.
In 4 weeks.
In 4 weeks.
Right.
I feel like I've matured. And it's a rewiring of our conditioned self-abandonment.
Yeah.
The trigger-proof method is the biggest discovery I made, is that every time I get triggered, it's because every time I get triggered, in that moment, the pain that I'm experiencing, the emotional pain, is the pain of my own self-abandonment. When I think, I'm not enough, I'm not lovable. If you say no to me, or say that you don't want to go somewhere, you don't want to do something with me, it's not because I'm not lovable. It's because you have a different set of values.
Yeah.
But I make it mean
Yeah.
that I'm not lovable. So I'm the one that abandoned myself. So the trigger proof methodology is really about rewiring our conditioned self-abandonment. And over time, you become emotionally mature. You become less reactive. You become more grounded and more attuned to yourself, and you become more understanding of other people just by virtue of the practice.
And it's not just relationships, it's about any relationships.
It's
business,
not just romantic.
friends, everything.
Everything is relational.
Everything is relational.
Everything
and it's how
is-
we heal.
Your relationship to money, your relationship to food. Right now,
That's right.
I'm working on my relationship to food. This is my next kind of frontier, is my relation, before, boom, I get triggered and now I want to go have a cookie, or I want ice cream, or now I'm eating and then I'm eating and then I'm like, wait, whoa, what am I doing right now? I'm just eating like a madman. And then it's like, wow,
Yeah.
what pain am I trying to avoid? What need am I trying to soothe, to get from this? And I'm pausing, and it's an inquiry into the body. It's a somatic. The trigger proof methodology is a somatic inquiry into finding the parts of ourselves that are hungry for love.
And we all have that.
We
We all
do.
have it.
And it's an ongoing thing. So there's no finish line to the
Awesome.
practice. You just become more refined. It's like golf. It's like, when Tiger Woods at his peak in 2000 finish a round, why is he still practicing? Isn't he good enough? And so it's a mastery. This is the cool part about it, is that there's always a new refinement. It's a spiritual practice.
Part of being, a more embodied human being on this earth. Where do people find you? Where's your website? Like, where do we learn more
Yeah.
about this?
My team will give you the link. The best place to begin is the attachment style quiz. I'll give the link for the quiz. You can put it in the show notes.
Yep.
And becometriggerproof.com.
Amazing.
The website is right there. And the quiz is the best place to begin. And I have an experience that I do every month called the Trigger Proof Experience. And it's a 3-day event that when COVID hit and I canceled all these events all over the world, I was like, I wonder if I could turn this into a 6-hour Zoom event, a 3-day event condensed into 6 hours, people could do from the comfort of their home. It worked amazing. And what I teach is this, you bring the biggest conflict that you're going through, and I teach you the methodology, how to become trigger proof to the worst conflict that you're going through. People have incredible healings with ruptures that they've had with their parents, with their children. Within one day, it's like 30 years of therapy in one afternoon.
I believe it. You're doing great work, man. You're doing great work. And I know, talking to you, I just wish that every practitioner had your wisdom injected into them, because then we'd look at health and wellness completely different. We didn't even talk about physical health issues because we know upstream, like you said in the beginning. And this is what we need. This is what we need. Like you said, everything is relational, and we step out of our door if we live alone, and we're going to be relating to someone or something very fast.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so
I do want to mention about that physical health you're a naturopath, is that my physical symptoms become the boundaries that I'm not able to express.
it's got to hit on something.
Well,
Could be an organ.
exactly. You say yes, you say yes,
Yeah.
and you keep abandoning yourself. Finally, the tissues go, screw you. And now the symptoms, you now are forcing you to say no without the guilt. Because if I were to say no to you, then I'd have to deal with guilt. And I can't deal with guilt because it evokes this toxic shame, like I'm a bad person. So I will say yes to you until my body breaks down. Now I can blame the symptom.
Yeah.
And now I can say no to you without the guilt. So, I'd love
That's
to
a
talk-
whole nother podcast of physical
I'll
health
be
and
back.
diseases. Yeah, you
I'm
got to be,
back. Yeah, I'll be back. I'll bring-
next time you go to Disneyland, are you kidding?
I'm in.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome, man. Such important wisdom, and viewers and listeners, think about it. Connect to this. feel it, rewind it. There's so much wisdom. I wrote down so many little cut downs we're going to use on social media.
Yeah.
Is because everyone can benefit from this. Go to the website, take the quiz, and join the live event, and make your relationships better, help your body be better.
Ultimately, it's the relationship with yourself, isn't it?
That's what it is, man. Thank you, Doc. I appreciate you.